Hello, my name is Jimmy, and this is the brand new 4th generation Nissan Frontier. For 2022, Nissan has completely reworked the Frontier with brand new styling and is here to take on a very competitive segment, the mid-size pickup. From the everlasting Tacoma to the very capable Colorado ZR2, where exactly does the Nissan fit? Well, if I'm honest, I think it's here to knock the Tacoma off its crown. Here in Canada, the Frontier is Nissan's only pickup. The Titan was discontinued after the 2021 model year, leaving you with just this Frontier. And in my eyes, Nissan has certainly done all the right things. Let's start with the looks. This is the Crew Cab Pro 4X trim, which means it has every single option available and is priced at $49,633 Canadian. You can trade off some interior space with the longer bed if you go with the King Cab, or you step down to the SV trim, which gives you a longer wheelbase to house a full cab as well as the longer bed. The Pro 4X is basically Nissan's version of TRD Pro. It's their off-road, just rugged and ready version for you to go on adventures. But like I said, let's talk about the styling first. We have an upright grille, Frontier right across it, the Nissan logo in the middle. There's a little bit of orange accents in here, and that's spread across the entire truck as it is the Pro 4X. We also have orange tow hooks down the bottom and a beautiful and fully functional skid plate down the bottom. As it is a Pro 4X, there are 3 skid plates along the underside of the body to protect all the vital organs. I do really like these LED headlamps on the side. They're absolutely beautiful, and of course, LED fog lamps on the bottom. Off to the side, well, it's actually very similar to the previous generation Frontier, as the ladder frame that's underneath is exactly the same as it was. Just a traditional cab here. You do get proximity door locks, which I do appreciate, so you're able to press a button, unlock the doors, and get inside the cab. And then out in the back, we get this Pro 4X sticker, LED taillights, and just shy of a 5-foot bed. It's actually decently nice. The tailgate, it's damped so that it just doesn't slam down, and there is an assist, so it's a little bit easier to bring it back up as well. Inside the tailgate itself, well, there's these utility track on the side, so you're able to anchor things down a little bit better. There's some LED lighting on the side and a 115 volt outlet on the right hand side. In terms of capability, well, there's a payload of 1,230 pounds and it can tow 6,260. Overall, in terms of styling, I think Nissan did a pretty good job here. The Frontier looks good, it looks fresh, but it's not something that it's just, stands out from the crowd like a Ridgeline does. So I think they've done a pretty good job. But let's go inside the cab here. All right. Well, this is the quad cab, which means it's as big as it comes, and I'm 5'11" and I'm right on the headliner here, and I mean, it's okay, but it's definitely not as roomy as some may like. But I think this is actually a little bit better than the Tacoma, which says something about the Tacoma. You do have some USB ports and additional 115 volt outlet here, and nice little armrest for you. It's definitely not too bad. I mean, the backrest itself is pretty upright, so it can be a little uncomfortable during longer journeys. If you're going to be housing child seats in here, a collect lane, as you can see on the driver's side, fits perfectly. With this infant seat, I didn't even actually have to move the driver's seat forward. As for a rearward-facing FUMF, I did have to move the passenger seat forward here, and as you can see, I am a little bit squished. As for forward-facing seats, well, definitely no problems. You do have upper anchors right behind the backrest here, but just the way that they're designed, like all trucks, they're just a little bit more cumbersome to use and a little bit more difficult, but once you're installed, you're perfectly fine. Anyways, let's go to the front seats. All right, the front seats of the Frontier. First thing I gotta say is these seats are super comfortable. Nissan's zero gravity seats, just always perfect. They don't have super amount of lateral support, so you're gonna be sliding around a little bit, but just in terms of the backrest itself, it's just perfect. It really is. In front of me, pretty traditional Nissan steering wheel. You got some buttons off to the side, nothing too extraordinary there, and pretty typical Nissan cluster as well. Partly digital, partly analog. It shows you everything you need. It's fully legible, and I really like the orange accents within. There isn't a heads-up display, which is completely fine, and then the main infotainment. This being the Pro 4X, I got this 9-inch unit here. It is a little bit bigger than the base model. I mean, it works great. It's all the standard Nissan affair. You got your dedicated volume and tuning knob. It's everything that you expect. The only thing is, well, in some other Nissan products, you get wireless CarPlay. But sadly, not in here. You will have to plug it in to one of the USB ports down below. But what's nice is, Nissan does give you a USB-C as well as a standard USB-A, so you're able to plug in all of your devices. Climate control and the rest of it is pretty traditional. It's kind of like the older Nissan affair in here, but I think that's completely fine. Overall, yes, there are some things to say that this is an older platform. Just the amount of buttons that's in here, off to the right as well as off to the left here. There's a crazy amount of buttons. But, I mean, the things that are kind of like waist level and up, it's pretty good. The screen's nice, the steering wheel's good, and you got good visibility all around. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. In any case, let's go for a drive just to see what it feels like. All right, on the road with the Frontier. The first thing you're gonna notice is just how heavy the steering wheel is. It's a hydraulically assisted rack, which is quite different than like most cars out there. Well, most new cars anyways. This is kind of old school, which some people's gonna really appreciate how this feels. But you might not appreciate, kind of how you sit. Because while there is tilt in the steering wheel, there's no telescope. Some people with maybe shorter arms might not be as comfortable in here, but I'm okay, so I don't think that's such a big deal. But your mileage will definitely vary, so do take one out for a test drive if you're thinking of taking a look at the Frontier. Anyways, how does it actually drive? How does it feel? How's the suspension? Well, I'm glad to report that it drives like a truck should. It's not like super comfortable. It's not like a Santa Cruz or a Ridgeline might be. And that's a good thing, because when you're looking for a truck, you're looking for something that feels like a truck. Now, I'm not saying this is like an old school truck type feel. It's not that bad. The suspension, it does soak up what it needs to do. There's Bilstein dampers all the way around, leaf springs out back. I mean, it does kind of have that kind of pickup wobble on rougher pavement, which you're fully expecting on a body-on-frame vehicle like this. But it's a lot more refined than it used to. And speaking of refined, it's actually decently quiet in here. I don't feel like it's as loud as before. And the powertrain, well, that's actually quite potent. It's a 3.8 liter engine, V6, very similar to before. I mean, the old one was a 4 liter, but now it makes 310 horsepower and 281 pound-feet of torque. All that's paired to a 9-speed automatic, and of course it's fed through all 4 wheels. Well, if you put it on 4 high, there isn't like a auto mode or anything like that. So most of the time you're just driving with rear-wheel drive. Being a Pro 4X, you actually have a rear diff locker, but unfortunately you can only use the rear diff locker in 4 low. I took a look at this. There's no information for this 2022 model year just yet, but on older ones, there is a little bit of hackery you can do to make it so that you can use the rear diff lock on 2-wheel drive for a little bit more fun. And you can turn off the stability control with a hack as well. Not with the button. That just turns off traction control and limits the stability control, but you can't fully hoon it. Don't ask me how I know. However, of course, you're not hooning it all the time. You're going to be a little bit sensible sometimes. And when you are sensible, it actually can return decent fuel economy. It's rated for 17 miles per gallon in the city, 22 on the highway. That's 13.7 in the city and 10.6 on the highway. Overall, the Frontier is a pretty good truck. It has all the right looks, the engine is good, it's just the right amount of gears, and it drives and handles decently well. Best yet, it's $12,000 less than a TRD Pro, and that's just at MSRP, at least here in Canada. In US, it's definitely a little different. Many dealers out there are selling those TRD Pros for quite a bit more. And the Pro 4X, well, it just doesn't seem to have that same sort of effect. And for that $12,000 that you're saving, well, you can get a whole lot for this. You can get wheels, tires, you can get suspension upgrades, you can get a pop-up tent, you can get a bed rack in the back, you can get traction boards, you can get whatever you want and still be cheaper than a TRD Pro. I mean, that's the biggest incentive of all. And if you're looking at it as what's a more capable vehicle, It's hard to say without testing them both back to back. But I'm just thinking of the savings here. $12,000 of savings, and what you get is a really good truck. It looks good, it drives well, the interior is nice, it feels a little bit more spacious than the Tacoma does. You're definitely not going wrong here. In any case, thank you so much for watching this video. Like the video if you do, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.